Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. This intro is going to be super quick as I'm sure you want to dive in and learn how to vectorize your Procreate lettering, and that is exactly what we're going to be doing today. The apps we'll be using to vectorize our Procreate lettering are free, so you don't need to buy any fancy equipment and you can do it all on your iPad as well. So let's dive in and start this tutorial. For this tutorial, you will need an iPad Pro, an Apple Pencil, Procreate, Adobe Capture, and Vectorinator. Okay, so let's start off by opening up Procreate. So I've just opened up Procreate and I already have the file that I want to vectorize. I've actually done two different letter styles here, and you'll see why later on when we come to vectorize this. So I've drawn out my letters. I'm not going to go into detail about how I do these, but just have a little experiment with different brush pens and have fun creating different letters. Before we dive in and see how we actually vectorize this lettering, I just want to take you through the difference between pixels and vector and why we can't vectorize our lettering in Procreate. So artwork in Procreate is based on pixels. They are rasterized images. This means that if you increase the size of something bigger than it already is, then it will become blurry or pixelated. So on this layer here, I've got the word hello quite small. I typed this out in Procreate and then I've rasterized the layer. Now if I were to increase the size of this text, can you see now that it's become quite blurry? The edges aren't as sharp and eventually that will become pixelated. Now when you vectorize something, whether it's lettering or a shape, no matter how much you increase the size, it will always keep those sharp lines. So vector-based artwork uses something called anchors and points to help create the shapes. So photographs tend to be made of pixels, whereas something like a logo will be a vector. So understanding how you can convert your Procreate lettering into a vector format is super helpful for a number of reasons. If you want to turn your lettering into a font, or if you're using SVG files for a Cricut or a Silhouette machine, or you're even creating a logo. Especially when you're creating a logo, you want to make sure it's in a format that's completely adaptable and resizable, and that's why vectors are perfect for this. As I said already, Procreate uses pixels only. We can't convert our lettering into vectors using Procreate. However, in this tutorial, I'm going to show you a few little free apps that you can use to do just that. Okay, let's get started. As I said, I've already got my lettering here. So the first thing we need to do is save this out as a PNG. So if you just tap your spanner button up here and tap on share, then we have the option down here that says PNG. A PNG is an image file, but it will save it without this white background. So it'll be a transparent background and only see the black text. So if I just hit PNG, and then if you already have Adobe Capture on your iPad, if you just scroll along here until you find Adobe Capture and tap it, it'll come up with the option to say post. So you just click post and it will send it to Adobe Capture. So Adobe Capture is an image tracing app from Adobe. I do have an account for Adobe Creative Cloud. However, I've actually logged into this using a different email address to show you that you can actually use this for free as well. You do not need to pay for Adobe to be able to use this app, and it's totally free to download as well. So what this is going to do is trace our lettering and start to create shapes and those anchor points that we need for vectorizing. So on this side bit here, we have a slider, and this is our threshold. So it's reading this image. And if I move this all the way to the bottom, can you see it's only got the outline of the lettering now? If I move it slightly up, it's starting to fill it in, but it's not filling it in completely. So I want to make sure that this is filled in and it's getting all of the letters and all of the little bit of detail. So I've just slid it nearly to the top, and then I'm just going to click this tick. So now we come into an area where we can refine. We're not actually going to refine in this app. We are going to use Vectorinator to refine, as the refine tool in here is a little bit clumsy sometimes. So at the moment, you'll see that it looks quite pixelated all around these edges. So the first step for us is to just hit this smooth button, which is at the top. So what it's done is it's actually converted this into a vector file, but as you can see, the sides are a little bit bumpy. If we press on down here, It's now really smoothed out our lettering. However, this doesn't always work, and you'll see why, because I've done the two different styles of calligraphy. So if I just turn it off a sec. So when it's off, you can see there's a few little bumps here and there, but in general, it looks really good. Now, if I press on, can you see how much these letters change for Procreate? Especially this T up here. All of the other ones haven't changed too much, apart from some little bits on the T's. So if I just turn it off, can you see this feels a lot more refined? It's a lot more accurate to the original lettering. Whereas if I turn it back on, the smoothing effect is just making it too smooth on this style of lettering. If you're doing quite blocky lettering like this, then that works quite well. So I'm going to keep smooth off, and then I'm just going to hit save. So I'm just going to name my lettering Vector Lettering. And I am going to save it to my library. So I've now got my Vectorise Procreate lettering here. And can you see underneath it's now an SVG instead of a PNG. So an SVG is like a PNG in the sense that it has a transparent background, but it is a vector file. So this has now been converted into a vector file. However, what if we want to play with it a bit and just tidy up some of the letters? So this is already set up for you to go. If you've got Adobe Illustrator, you could always send it to Adobe Illustrator, which is what I tend to do to touch up my vector lettering. Or if you're using something like a Cricut or a Silhouette, then you could send this to your machine and start using it in those softwares. And it's ready if you want to start doing something like creating a font. However, if you want to refine it a little bit more and you want to keep it all on your iPad, you don't want to get any fancy equipment, there is a way we can go in and refine these letters a little bit more. Now we're moving on to Vectornator. So Vectornator is a free app where you can create and edit vector files. So if I just press the plus button up here and tap on cloud, then I've got my vector lettering. So I've now opened my vector lettering, and as you can see straight away, it's got this transparent background. So you can't see white anymore. You can only see this transparent grid system. So over here we have our selection tool. So I can select all of these letters individually and I can move them around if I want. So what vectorizing has done is actually broken out each letter individually or each shape individually. So example with Procreate, the row create is separate to the P because they weren't combined. And then for the word lettering, these T's are also joined because they're creating one shape. Okay, so let's zoom in a little bit closer into this lettering. So if we have a little look at the details, we can see here on this A, there's a weird dip going on. And we've got some other strange shapes going on too, like this dip here. So how do we amend that? So we want to tap this tool here, which is our direct selection tool, and then we want to tap on the area of lettering that we want to amend. So can you see now there's all of these little squares all the way around this lettering. And if I were to pull one out, it's distorting the shape. So this is what vectors are made of. Vectors are made of various different points to create all of these shapes. So if we go back into that A, when you're close up, you have a little bit more control over these anchor points. So you've got these circles here, which change the curvature of the line, and they appear either side. And then the square is the actual anchor point, so you can move this around. I don't think I actually need that there, so I've just selected it. You can tell it's selected because it's black, and then you just press the delete button up there. And now we've just got a bit of a nicer dip in this A. So if we move over to here, again, we've got a bit of a strange shape going on. So I'm just gonna tap on that anchor point and I'm just gonna move the curvature of it around a little bit. And I'm just gonna pull it out. And as you can see, it's just smoothed it a little bit. I don't want it to look too perfect. I still want it to look like it's a hand lettered font, but I'm just going to go in and touch up all of these little areas just to make it a little neater. point like this where it's got a curve on it, but you don't want that curve. I don't really want it there. You can tap this paintbrush icon, and can you see we've got different styles of anchor point? So this one is slightly freestyle in the sense that the circles move around together on the opposite sides, but I can move this one in and out like so. But if I twist all the way around, the other one is always going to be opposite. Now if I select this option here, they move individually to each other. So can you see I can start make some pretty cool shapes. Now if you want them to snap together, then you press this button and these will move in and out together and they will twist around together. Now I actually don't want these curve points anyway, so the last one you can tap is this one and it just gets rid of them completely. And now I can just move that down and I'm happy with that. So now I've tidied up this vector file. It is ready to use in any way I wish to use it. If you want to save this out, you just need to press this little arrow button next to the X, and then there is an export button. So if you are exporting this file and you want to keep it as a vector file, it's very important that you either save it as an SVG or an AI. JPEG and PNG are pixel-based formats only. So if you save it as a JPEG or a PNG, then it will revert back to a pixel-based image or a rasterized image. So to make sure it stays in its vector form, save it as an SVG. This is a universal vector file. If you do have Adobe Illustrator, then you can save it as an AI file. So this is specifically an Illustrator file. So you can just click SVG, and then over here we have some settings. So I'm just going to click save, and then you could airdrop it to your Mac if you have a Mac, or you can email it to yourself. So SVG files tend to be quite small, so they're quite easy to email. And you can use it on your computer. Or if you want to print directly from this app, you totally can as well. You just have to click the print button. When you're doing your lettering in Procreate, I'd advise you to keep it in black, as Adobe Capture will only really recognize dark shapes and it will convert it to a black shape. However, if you do want to change the color of your lettering after you've vectorized it, you can do that in here as well. So for example, if I take my selection tool, which is the top arrow, and just tap on this E, then I can change the color over here. And now that E is red. And if I click on the S, I can change it to another color. So I've changed that to yellow. And then for this shape here, because Procreate is all attached apart from the P, if I change the color of this, it will change all of the letters. So as you can see, it's changed all of the letters here because they're all attached. So this is considered one shape. The only way you can separate these letters is if you actually draw them separately in the first place. So there you go. That's how you vectorize your Procreate lettering, all for free and all on the iPad. Obviously you do need to purchase the Procreate app, but I assume you're kind of watching this because you already have the Procreate app and you're wanting to vectorize your lettering. Like I said, the Adobe Capture app is totally free. You don't need to have an Adobe account. You will need to create some sort of account, but you won't need to pay anything for the Adobe Capture app. And this Vectorinator app is free too. I hope you found this tutorial helpful and it's given you a little bit of basis between pixels and vectors, but it's also shown you that you don't need fancy equipment to vectorize your Procreate lettering. Hopefully this is going to help you with lots of projects in the future, like logo design, or if you're creating SVGs, if you have something like a Cricut or a silhouette machine, or if you just need it to be in a vector format for any other reason. I hope you enjoyed watching this video, and if you did find it useful, make sure you give it a thumbs up, and if you want to see more videos from me, then make sure you hit that subscribe button. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye!